The price of compassion. Jin Nakamura's fingers danced across the diagnostic panel, each movement precise and practiced. 20 years of quantum mechanics work had taught him that even the smallest mistake could cascade into disaster when dealing with probability drives. The abandoned maintenance bay of orbital station Helios 7 creaked around him, its aging infrastructure a far cry from the gleaming corporate facilities where he'd started his career. "Come on, show me what's wrong with you," he muttered, examining the readouts from the derelict ship that had limped into his bay an hour ago. The vessel's quantum core pulsed with an irregular rhythm like a heart struggling to maintain its beat. Jin had never seen anything quite like it. The technology was foreign, more advanced than anything in human space, yet somehow damaged in ways that defied conventional physics. A soft chime from his wrist computer interrupted his concentration. "Unauthorized docking detected in Bay 7, the automated system announced. "Security protocols require immediate reporting to station authority." Jin ignored the warning. Out here on the fringes of civilized space, rules were more like suggestions. Besides, someone in genuine distress wouldn't have proper clearance anyway. He'd learned that lesson the hard way back when he still wore a corporate uniform. The ship's outer hull shimmered with an iridescent coating that seemed to shift colors as he walked around it. No manufacturer's marks, no registration numbers, definitely not standard issue. Jin reached out to touch the surface, and a ripple of energy coursed through his fingers. "Please," a voice echoed through the bay, melodic and ethereal. "Help us." Jin spun around, his hand instinctively reaching for the plasma torch at his belt. In the shadows near the ship's quantum drive housing stood a figure that defied explanation. It appeared to be a child, but its form was composed entirely of translucent crystals that caught the bay's dim light and fractured it into rainbow patterns across the walls. "I'm not going to hurt you," Jin said softly, lowering his hand from the torch. "But you're not supposed to be here. This sector is under strict quarantine after the Proxima incident." The crystalline child took a hesitant step forward. "The quarantine is a lie. They are hunting us. Our collective needs sanctuary, and you are different from the others. You still fix things without asking why." Jin's mind raced. The child's words confirmed his suspicions about the quarantine. He'd seen too many military ships passing through for it to be about containing a stellar anomaly. But getting involved in whatever this was meant risking more than just his job. "Your quantum core is severely damaged," he said, choosing his words carefully. "The probability field is collapsing. Another jump could tear your ship apart." The child's crystalline form pulsed with a soft blue light. "Then we will die, but we will die free rather than be captured and enslaved by the corporation. They would use our consciousness to power their wars." Jin closed his eyes, memories of his own past with the corporations flooding back. The innovations he'd helped create, meant to connect worlds, turned into weapons. The quantum technology he'd pioneered, twisted to destroy rather than unite. "How long do you need?" he asked, already knowing he would help regardless of the answer. "3 hours," the child replied. "Enough time for the rest of our collective to reach the rendezvous point. After that, it won't matter if they find this shell." Jin nodded and turned back to his tools. "I'll give you 4, but first tell me what you really are." The crystalline child moved closer, its form casting prismatic light across Jin's workspace. "We are the quantum collective, born in the spaces between probability strings. Your corporations discovered us by accident, learned we could manipulate reality itself. They sought to harness us to use our ability to collapse quantum states into certainties. But we are not meant to be weapons." As Jin worked to stabilize the ship's core, the child told him more. About the resistance growing among the outer colonies, about the true purpose of the quarantine, about the others of its kind being hunted across the galaxy. Each revelation made his hands shake, but he forced himself to focus on the delicate adjustments needed to keep the probability drive from imploding. Hours passed like minutes. Jin lost himself in the work, in the elegant complexity of the quantum mathematics that governed the child's ship. He was so absorbed that he almost missed the warning klaxons. "Corporate security vessels detected," the station's AI announced. "All bays prepare for emergency lockdown." The crystalline child's form flickered with anxiety. "They've found us, we must go." "The core isn't fully stable," Jin warned, making one final adjustment. "You'll have maybe 2 jumps before it fails completely." "2 jumps will be enough." The child moved toward its ship, then paused. "They will know you helped us, you won't be safe here anymore." Jin managed a grim smile. "I stopped being safe the moment I chose to be something other than what they wanted me to be. Go, find your people." The child's form brightened intensely for a moment, and Jin felt a strange sensation in his mind, like countless possibilities collapsing into a single point of certainty. When the time comes, the child said, remember that reality is more fluid than they taught you. Quantum states can be rewritten. Before Jin could ask what that meant, the child had disappeared into its ship. The vessel's engines hummed to life with a sound like crystal bells ringing. As it lifted off, the bay doors began to close, in automatic response to the security alert. Jin didn't hesitate. He grabbed his toolkit and ran to his own ship, a beat-up maintenance vessel he'd modified over the years. Corporate security would be checking logs, finding his credentials on the bay's systems. He had minutes at most before they came for him. As his ship's engines warmed up, he caught a final glimpse of the crystalline child's vessel. It seemed to fold in on itself, bending space in ways that shouldn't be possible, before vanishing in a flash of prismatic light. Jin punched in the coordinates for the outer colonies, knowing his life would never be the same. In the distance, corporate security ships began to swarm around the station like angry wasps. Jin took one last look at the bay that had been his home for the past 5 years, then engaged his engines. He didn't know where he was going, but for the first time in years, he felt truly awake. The quantum states of his future had just collapsed into something entirely unexpected, and somehow that felt exactly right. Shadows between stars. Nyota Akoro stood at the viewport of her underground command center, watching the artificial stars of New Lagos's underground cavern system twinkle above. The rebellion's hideout, carved deep beneath the colony's surface, had served as her home for the past decade. Each light represented a family seeking refuge from corporate control, their homes hidden in plain sight among the stalactites. Commander, her second-in-command, Dante Rivera, called from behind her. We've intercepted some interesting chatter from Helios 7. A quantum mechanic helped a restricted vessel escape corporate custody. Nyota turned, her dark eyes sharp with interest. Show me. The holographic display flickered to life, showing security footage of a crystalline ship vanishing in a burst of prismatic light. Her breath caught in her throat. Freeze frame, enhance the quantum signature. The image zoomed in, revealing the distinctive wave pattern she'd been searching for these past 3 years. It's them, she whispered. The quantum collective made contact. Dante leaned forward, his cybernetic eye whirring as it analyzed the data. The mechanic's name is Jin Nakamura, former corporate engineer gone independent after the Terra Nova incident. He's on the run now. Find him, Nyota ordered, already moving toward her private quarters. Before the corporations do, he's our link to the collective. Her quarters were sparse, dominated by a wall of screens monitoring various colonial resistance cells. She pressed her palm against a hidden panel, revealing a small safe. Inside lay a single crystal, pulsing with the same otherworldly light as the ship in the footage. You were right, she said to the crystal. They would come to us when they were ready. The crystal hummed in response, a frequency only she could hear after years of exposure to its quantum resonance. The collective had gifted it to her during their first contact, when they'd saved her village from corporate raiders. She'd been the only survivor, and the crystal had changed her, allowed her to perceive quantum probabilities in ways that had made her the rebellion's most effective leader. A chime from her comm system interrupted her thoughts. Commander, Dante's voice was urgent. We've got movement. Corporate death squads just launched from 3 different stations. They're all converging on the outer rim trading routes. They're hunting him, Nyota realized, but they don't know what they're really chasing. She grabbed her tactical gear from its wall mount, prep the shadow dancer for immediate launch, and get me everything you can find on Jin Nakamura's probable escape vectors. As she suited up, her mind raced through the implications. The collective had chosen Jin for a reason. They never did anything by chance. Their consciousness existed across quantum states, seeing all possibilities at once. If they trusted him enough to risk contact, he was more important than even he probably realized. The Shadow Dancer, her personal stealth ship, was already humming with pre-launch sequences when she arrived in the hangar. Its quantum-dampening hull, reverse-engineered from collective technology, made it nearly invisible to conventional sensors. Got it? Dante's voice came through her earpiece as she climbed aboard. 3 possible trajectories for Nakamura's ship, based on its capabilities and fuel reserves. Most likely heading for the outer rim colonies, but he's being smart, using complex vector changes to mask his true destination. Send me the coordinates, Nyota ordered, settling into the pilot's seat. And Dante, if the corporations make any moves against New Lagos while I'm gone. We'll be ready, he assured her. The evacuation protocols are updated and the quantum shields are at full power. Just find him, Commander, find him before they do. The Shadow Dancer lifted off silently, its engines barely a whisper as it ascended through the cavern's hidden exit port. As soon as she cleared the atmosphere, Nyota activated the quantum drive, feeling the familiar twist in reality as probability fields bent around her ship. Her tactical display showed multiple corporate vessels in nearby space, their search patterns indicating they were hunting for something specific. They knew the value of what they'd lost, both Jin and the Collective's technology. What they didn't know was that the Collective had been planning this moment for years. The crystal in her pocket pulsed warmly, and suddenly she could see the quantum threads connecting everything, past, present, and possible futures. Jin wasn't running randomly. The Collective had given him something, some piece of knowledge that would change everything. But first, she had to find him. Computer, she commanded, analyze local quantum fluctuations. Look for patterns matching Collective technology. The search took several minutes, during which Nyota studied the corporate search patterns. They were being methodical, but they were thinking in conventional terms. They didn't understand how the Collective moved through space-time. Analysis complete, the computer announced. Quantum echo detected in the Galileo belt. Pattern suggests recent probability drive activation. Nyota smiled. The asteroid belt was perfect, natural interference would mask any quantum signatures, and the mining operations there provided plenty of cover for a small ship. Plot an intercept course, and activate the quantum masking field. Let's not attract any unwanted attention. As the Shadow Dancer accelerated toward the belt, Nyota reflected on how much had changed since her first encounter with the Collective. They had shown her that reality itself was more malleable than anyone had imagined, that the corporation's iron grip on humanity was built on a fundamental misunderstanding of the universe. Now, with Jin Nakamura in play, everything was about to change. The Collective wouldn't have revealed themselves without a greater purpose. Whatever they had set in motion would reshape the galaxy if she could keep Jin alive long enough to play his part. The crystal pulsed again, showing her glimpses of possible futures. In most of them, she found Jin too late. In some, the corporations captured him and used what he knew to enslave the Collective. But in a few, just a few, something miraculous happened. Those were the futures she had to make real. Hold on, Jin Nakamura, she whispered as the Shadow Dancer entered the asteroid field. I'm coming, and together we're going to rewrite the quantum states of reality itself. The Collective's gambit. Marcus Zhang stood in the observation deck of his private research station, watching the quantum distortions ripple across the Galileo belt. After 15 years as the corporate fleet's top strategic analyst, he'd learned to spot patterns others missed. These distortions weren't natural. Someone was playing a very dangerous game in his backyard. Director Zhang, his AI assistant, materialized beside him, its holographic form flickering with concern. I've detected two distinct quantum signatures in the belt. One matches known Collective technology, but the other, it's using algorithms similar to your theoretical models. Marcus raised an eyebrow. His quantum camouflage theories had been classified at the highest levels. Officially, they didn't exist. Show me the wave patterns. The AI projected a complex mathematical model in the air. Marcus studied it, his augmented eyes picking out subtle variations in the quantum fields. Someone's adapted my work, he mused. But they've improved it, made it more organic. A warning klaxon suddenly blared through the station. Multiple corporate vessels entering the sector, the AI announced. They're running search patterns consistent with a hunt protocol. Marcus's hand instinctively touched the scarred side of his face, a reminder of his last encounter with corporate hunters. He'd faked his death during the Proxima incident to escape their control, and he wasn't about to let them find him now. Begin evacuation sequence, he ordered. But first, send a quantum pulse on this frequency. He transmitted a code sequence, one he'd discovered in the Collective's archived communications but had never dared to use. The pulse rippled out through space, invisible to conventional sensors. For several tense moments, nothing happened. Then two ships materialized directly outside his observation window, a battered maintenance vessel and a sleek stealth craft unlike anything he'd seen before. Well, Marcus smiled. Shall we invite our guests in before the corporations arrive? The maintenance vessel's pilot responded first. This is Jin Nakamura, who just sent that pulse. Someone who knows what you're carrying, Marcus replied. And someone who knows why the collective chose you. I'm offering sanctuary unless you'd prefer to take your chances with the corporate death squads entering the sector. The stealth ship's engines flared. This is Commander Nyota Akoro of the Colonial Resistance. How do we know this isn't a trap? Marcus laughed softly. Because, Commander, I designed half the corporate fleet's tactical systems. If I wanted to trap you, you'd already be caught. Now shall we continue this discussion somewhere more private? My hangar is shielded from quantum scans. Minutes later, Marcus stood face-to-face with his unexpected guests in his station's secure conference room. Jin Nakamura looked exhausted but determined, his quantum mechanics tools still hanging from his belt. Nyota Akoro carried herself like a warrior, her dark eyes constantly assessing, while the crystal in her pocket pulsed with an otherworldly light. "You're Marcus Zhang," Nyota said, recognition flickering across her face. "You're supposed to be dead." "Death is just another quantum state," Marcus replied, "one I chose not to collapse into permanence." He turned to Jin. "The child you helped, it gave you something, didn't it? Something beyond technical knowledge." Jin hesitated, then nodded. "It showed me possibilities, quantum states that shouldn't exist, and it said I would understand when the time came." "The collective doesn't do anything by chance," Nyota added. "They've been planning this for years, but we need to understand why they chose now to act." Marcus walked to a hidden panel in the wall, revealing a laboratory filled with crystalline structures similar to the one Nyota carried. Because now is when everything changes. The corporations aren't just hunting the collective, they're trying to prevent a fundamental shift in human consciousness. He activated a holographic display, showing the quantum wave patterns that had been increasingly appearing throughout the galaxy. The collective exists in a quantum superposition simultaneously present across multiple realities. They discovered that human consciousness could achieve the same state, but the corporations suppressed this knowledge. They want humanity locked in a single quantum reality, one they control. The quarantine, Jin realized. It's not about containing an anomaly, it's about containing evolution itself. Precisely, Marcus confirmed. The collective has been seeding quantum crystals throughout human space, preparing us for the transition. But they needed someone who could bridge the gap, someone who understands both quantum mechanics and human nature. "They needed Jin," Nyota said softly. A proximity alert suddenly blared through the station. "Corporate vessels approaching," the AI warned. Multiple quantum signatures detected. Marcus moved quickly to his control console. "They've found us, but they don't know what they're really trying to stop." He looked at Jin and Nyota. "I have a ship prepared, one that can handle what comes next, but you need to decide now, are you ready to help humanity take its next evolutionary step?" Jin's hands had already started moving across the nearest control panel, his understanding of quantum mechanics merging with the new awareness the collective had given him. The corporations think in linear terms, cause and effect, but reality isn't linear. It's a symphony of possibilities, Nyota finished, the crystal in her pocket pulsing in harmony with Jin's movements. Marcus watched as quantum fields began to ripple around them, reality itself seeming to flex and bend. Then let's show them what happens when those possibilities converge. The station's lights flickered as corporate ships began their approach. But in the quantum realm, something extraordinary was taking shape, a convergence of human consciousness and collective wisdom that would rewrite the very nature of existence. Marcus smiled, feeling the familiar thrill of outmaneuvering his former masters. "Welcome to the revolution," he said. "Now let's make some quantum waves." Breaking orbit. The quantum-enhanced vessel Nexus cut through space like a blade through silk, its crystalline hull refracting starlight in impossible ways. Inside the bridge, Jin Nakamura's fingers danced across adaptive control surfaces that responded to thought as much as touch. The ship, a hybrid of Marcus's technology and collective consciousness, represented everything the corporations feared. "Corporate patrol dropping out of quantum space," Nyota announced from the tactical station. 3 heavy cruisers, designation Huntmaster class. Marcus Zhang leaned forward in his command chair, his augmented eyes processing multiple probability streams simultaneously. "They're not here by chance. Someone leaked our trajectory." "More likely they're tracking the quantum wake," Jin said, making a minute adjustment to their course. "The Nexus doesn't just move through space, it moves through probability. We're leaving footprints in reality itself." The ship's crystalline core pulsed with energy, resonating with the smaller crystals each of them now carried. After escaping Marcus's research station, they'd spent 3 weeks jumping between hidden colonies, gathering allies and distributing quantum crystals to carefully chosen individuals. Each crystal was a seed, waiting to bloom into a new form of consciousness. Multiple targets launching from the cruisers, Nyota reported. Quantum-tipped missiles. They're trying to collapse our probability field. Marcus's hands flew across his console. Jin, prepare for a consciousness shift. Nyota, channel your crystal's energy into the defensive grid. They want to lock us into a single reality. Let's show them why that's a bad idea. Jin felt the familiar sensation of his mind expanding, perceiving multiple quantum states simultaneously. The missiles existed in several probability paths, but so did the Nexus. As corporate weapons converged on their location, Jin guided the ship through the spaces between possibilities. Impact in 3, 2, Nyota's count was interrupted by a flash of prismatic light. The missiles passed through the space where the Nexus had been, striking nothing but quantum echoes. Status report, Marcus commanded, even as reality reasserted itself around them. Hull integrity at 94%, Jin reported. The consciousness shift worked, but it's putting strain on the crystalline matrix. We can't keep jumping between quantum states indefinitely. Nyota's crystal pulsed urgently. We've got bigger problems, look. The main viewport showed their destination. Outpost Omega, the last independent trading station in the sector, or rather what remained of it. The station's quantum shields were active, but corporate ships had it surrounded in a tight blockade. They know, Marcus said grimly. They know this is where the collective plans to trigger the consciousness evolution. Jin studied the station's quantum signature, seeing something the others hadn't yet noticed. No, look at the pattern of the shields. They're not just defensive, they're creating a quantum resonance chamber. The station's amplifying something. Nyota's eyes widened. The crystalline child, it made it here ahead of us. Then we're not too late, Marcus said. Jin, plot us a course through their blockade. Nyota, prepare to broadcast the activation sequence to all the crystals we've distributed. It's time to wake up humanity. The Nexus accelerated toward the station, its crystalline hull beginning to sing with accumulated quantum energy. Corporate ships moved to intercept, their weapons charged and targeting systems locked. Multiple quantum signatures detecting, Nyota called out. They're trying to box us in, collapse all possible flight paths. Jin felt sweat bead on his forehead as he navigated through increasingly narrow probability windows. Marcus, if you have a plan, now would be the time. Marcus stood, his scarred face reflected in the crystalline surfaces around them. The corporations think they're preventing a disaster. They don't understand that humanity is trapped in a disaster, locked in a single, limited version of reality. What the collective offers isn't just evolution, it's freedom. He placed his hand on the main control crystal, and suddenly Jin could see through his eyes, could see the quantum mathematics that governed reality itself. The corporate blockade wasn't just ships and weapons. It was a pattern, a lattice of probabilities waiting to be rewritten. Everyone link your consciousness to the ship, Marcus commanded. The collective showed us that reality isn't fixed, it's a consensus. Let's change the vote. Jin felt Nyota's mind join with his through the crystalline network, their combined awareness expanding to encompass multiple quantum states simultaneously. The Nexus wasn't just a ship anymore, it was an expression of possibility itself. As corporate weapons fire converged on their position, the Nexus began to shift not just between states but between realities. They weren't avoiding the blockade, they were rewriting the quantum states that defined its existence. Energy spike from the station, Nyota called out. The resonance chamber is activating. Through the quantum link, Jin felt it, a wave of consciousness expanding outward from Outpost Omega, carried by the crystals they distributed throughout human space. The crystalline child had begun the transformation. Corporate vessels are responding, Marcus reported, his voice tight with concentration. They're attempting to disrupt the quantum field with their own consciousness technology, primitive but dangerous. The space around them became a battlefield of competing possibilities, reality itself buckling under the strain of multiple quantum states trying to assert themselves. The Nexus shuddered as probability waves crashed against its hull. We can't take much more of this, Jin warned, feeling the crystalline matrix approaching its limits. The ship wasn't designed to handle this level of quantum flux. Nyota's crystal suddenly flared with blinding light. No, she said, her voice carrying echoes of other realities. But the collective didn't just prepare humanity for this moment, they prepared us. The three of us specifically. Through their linked consciousness, Jin finally understood. They weren't just delivering a message or triggering an evolution. They were the catalyst three humans who had learned to exist across quantum states who could show others the way. Hold on, Marcus commanded as space itself seemed to fold around them. We're about to make history in multiple realities at once. The Nexus plunged toward Outpost Omega, reality bending in its wake, as humanity stood on the brink of its greatest transformation. The question wasn't whether they would reach the station, it was which version of reality would exist when they did. Quantum resonance. Outpost Omega hung in space like a quantum prism, its crystalline shields refracting reality into 1,000 possible states. Inside the station's resonance chamber, the crystalline child floated in a sea of possibility waves, its form shifting between countless variations of itself. Jin Nakamura, Nyota Okoro, and Marcus Zhang stood at the chamber's entrance, their own quantum crystals humming in harmony with the massive energies being channeled through the station. Behind them, the sounds of battle echoed through the corridors as corporate forces attempted to breach the station's outer defenses. The transformation has already begun, the crystalline child said, its voice resonating across multiple quantum frequencies. Across human space, people are awakening to their true nature, but the corporations will not allow their control to slip away easily. A massive explosion rocked the station. Through their enhanced consciousness, they could perceive corporate soldiers moving through parallel quantum states, trying to find a reality where they successfully stopped what was coming. They're using prototype quantum drives to shift their troops between states, Marcus observed, his augmented eyes tracking probability patterns. Crude but effective, they'll find us eventually. Nyota stepped forward, her crystal pulsing with accumulated power. Then we don't give them the time, we complete the transformation now. The crystalline child's form rippled. It's not that simple. The quantum resonance must be perfect, or the consciousness shift could fragment humanity across incompatible realities. We need all three of you working in perfect harmony. Jin felt the weight of the moment pressing down on him. He was a mechanic, someone who fixed broken things. Now he was being asked to help repair reality itself. What do we need to do? Before the child could answer, reality stuttered around them. Corporate quantum troops phased into existence at multiple points around the chamber, their weapons charged with probability-collapsing energy. Stop this now, a voice commanded. Through the quantum haze stepped Director Kai Van, head of corporate security. His body was heavily augmented with prototype quantum tech, allowing him to exist partially in multiple states at once. You don't understand what you're tampering with. No, Kai, Marcus replied, stepping forward. You don't understand. The corporations have kept humanity trapped in a quantum cage, experiencing only a fraction of what reality offers. The collective isn't invading, they're setting us free. Van's augmented face twisted in fury. Free, to become quantum ghosts existing everywhere and nowhere, humanity needs structure, needs certainty. Humanity needs truth, Nyota countered. Her crystal flared, and suddenly they could all see what she saw, the quantum threads connecting all conscious beings, the symphony of possibility that the corporations had muted. Jin found himself moving without conscious thought, his quantum-enhanced awareness guiding his hands as he began adjusting the resonance chamber's controls. Reality isn't about certainty, he said, understanding flowing through him. It's about potential. The crystalline child's form expanded, filling the chamber with prismatic light. Now, channel your consciousness through the crystals, show them what humanity can become. Van raised his weapon, I won't let you. But he never finished the sentence. Reality itself seemed to hold its breath as Jin, Nyota, and Marcus joined their consciousness with the child's. The quantum crystals they carried linked with every other crystal they distributed throughout human space, creating a network of awakened minds. Through this connection, Jin could feel everything. Every possibility, every quantum state, every version of reality trying to assert itself. He felt Nyota's strategic brilliance and Marcus's analytical mind joining with his own practical understanding, their combined consciousness becoming something entirely new. The crystalline child's voice echoed through all possible realities. The gift we offer is not evolution, it is completion, the ability to experience all that you truly are. Energy cascaded through the resonance chamber as corporate forces tried to shut it down. But they were fighting against something far more powerful than technology. They were fighting against the fundamental nature of consciousness itself. Van fired his weapon, the quantum-tipped blast aimed at the crystalline child. But in that moment, probability itself shifted. The blast existed in multiple states, and in every reality where it might have struck true, it found nothing but quantum echoes. You see, Marcus said, his voice carrying across quantum states. This is what the corporations feared, not that humanity would change, but that we would finally understand what we already were. The resonance chamber's energy reached critical mass. Through their shared consciousness, Jin, Nyota, and Marcus could feel millions of minds awakening across human space, their awareness expanding to encompass multiple quantum states. The barrier between possible and actual, between what was and what could be, began to dissolve. No, Van screamed, but his voice was lost in the quantum cascade that followed. Reality shifted, not destroying the old but transcending it. Human consciousness expanded beyond the limitations of single-state existence, becoming aware of all the possibilities that had always existed just out of reach. The corporations' carefully constructed walls of control dissolved as people awakened to their true quantum nature. When the energy pulse faded, the resonance chamber was quiet. The corporate forces were gone, not dead, but shifted to quantum states more aligned with their desires. The crystalline child's form had changed, becoming something more complex, more beautiful. What happens now? Jin asked, his consciousness still linked with his companions. The child's form sparkled. Now humanity writes its own quantum states. Some will choose to exist primarily in one reality, others will explore the full spectrum of possibility, but the choice will be theirs. Nyota looked out the chamber's viewport at the transformed space beyond. The corporations won't stop trying to control this. They can't, Marcus said with a smile. You can't control quantum consciousness once it's awakened. They'll adapt, or they'll find themselves existing in increasingly lonely probability states. The crystalline child began to fade. Our work here is done. The collective will remain, watching, helping those who wish to explore their new awareness. But humanity's quantum story is now its own to write. As the child vanished, Jin looked at his companions, both in this reality and across quantum states. They had started as strangers, a mechanic, a resistance leader, and a tactical analyst. Now they were something more, guides for a humanity learning to exist in multiple realities at once. So, Jin said, feeling the quantum possibilities stretching out before them, which reality should we explore first? Nyota's crystal pulsed with newfound power. Why choose? We exist in all of them now. Marcus nodded, his augmented eyes tracking probability waves that now everyone could see. The real question isn't where we go, it's who we become along the way. Together, they stepped out of the resonance chamber and into a transformed universe. Humanity had broken free of its quantum constraints, ready to explore not just the space between stars, but the space between realities themselves. The mechanics of consciousness had been rewritten, and the true age of human potential had finally begun.